Before we jump into today's episode, I just want to say that it's sickening. It's sad to see and hear about these school shootings that keep happening over and over again. I don't have the answers to gun control or what should be done next. All I know is that we have the capability to protect these schools and there needs to be law enforcement there at all times. Taking away America's guns is I mean, that's not what the founding fathers would have wanted. I know they didn't expect to have automatic weapons or anything along those lines like we do today. However, you can't buy an automatic weapon. And you can kill somebody easily with a handgun, I mean, with a knife. Bad people are going to do bad things. They're going to get their hands on different weapons that they can make a bomb or something. I mean, just straight up banning guns is not the answer, in my opinion. Protect our children, protect these kids, put guards there, armed guards, make it so that there's no way somebody would even think about attempting to do what happened in Texas. God rest their souls, those poor children. All right, here's episode 13. Hello and welcome to The Morning Bean, a show not about coffee. Instead, we enjoy our coffee while discussing current events. I'm your host, Denny London, and today's episode is called Welp, We're Here Now, What's Next? Before we jump into the downfall of society and possibly the next plandemic, please consider giving the show a follow and a 5-star review. It really helps with those crazy robot algorithms. Algorithms. Another packed show for you today. We'll take a look at Joe Biden's Inauguration Day promises, and you know what? See if he kept them. And just for the hell of it, we'll give him a grade, like he's in school. After that, we'll take a look at the Washington Post tweet that I'd like to call the WaPo Fiasco. No, it's not a group like a music group, even though that sounds like an awesome rap name. Maybe I'll take that. Check me on YouTube, youtube.com/WaPo Fiasco. I'm putting out my new EP June 25th. But in all seriousness, wait till you hear this tweet. These people really are stupid. And finally, we'll end on a lighter note because we need more of that nowadays. And we're going to highlight some of Elon Musk's best clapbacks and tweets. All right, no time to waste. Let's dive in. I have a question. How did we get here? How did we get to the point in America where there's a baby formula shortage, mass shootings, rapid inflation, monkeypox, a proxy war with Russia and soon to be China, and an ever more dividing culture war? Joseph, are you done being a tyrant yet? Biden laid out some clear goals during his inauguration. Defeat COVID and lower the temperature, being the main two. There's no red states, there's no blue states, there's just the United States. That's basically what he was saying, kind of like his dad, Barack. Now, let's go ahead and dive in a little bit. To start off, defeat COVID-19. Now, per CDC data, more people have died from the cocoa in 2021 versus 2020. Even the mainstream fake news media cannot deny it. It's on paper. It's a fact. Now, my question is, how does this happen when a miracle vaccine was created and mandated? You can't see because we're in audio format, but I used air quotes for miracle. Too long, don't read. All Biden had to do was nothing. Open it up, open everything back up, and just leave it alone. I do have another answer on why more people have died and why he's failed on COVID-19. I mean, we had flawed numbers, a flawed vaccine, and flawed policies. The following statements are 100% true. They are not fake news or misinformation. Rapid tests, the one that they mail you out, the ones that are made in China, are not consistent or accurate with their results. I guess the only thing consistent about them is how inaccurate they are. These inaccurate numbers were used to create tyrannical, authoritarian, and draconian policies against the citizens of the United States of America. We quickly went from 15 days to flatten the curve, to slow the spread, to 2 years of darkness real quick. The vaccine has about a 12% efficacy rate. That's why you see people that are 4 times boosted, and on Twitter, everybody on the left posting the same tweet like, "Oh, I got COVID, but thank goodness I was 4 times boosted. It could have been worse." Like, no, don't insult our intelligence. It doesn't work. It's a 12% efficacy rate. Now, Pfizer tried to hold back these numbers for 75 damn years, but thanks to a Freedom of Information Act request, they had to comply and provide the data. Something else we found out in this FOIA request, I think that's what they call it in the business, the FOIA request, we found out that 75% of the deaths had 3 or more comorbidities, which means that they had more causes of death besides just COVID. Now, you'd think these scientific people, our government, would want to know and separate these kind of numbers, like how many people died from COVID and how many people died with COVID. That would dictate how dangerous something like this might be. Another thing, lockdowns and masking children did more harm than good. I mean, I did a whole podcast about the dangers of masking kids on January 19th. It's called Masks Off, and I'm not talking about that Future song, so feel free to check that out after this show, obviously. I feel it's evergreen content. I use a lot of references. I worked on it for a long time, so I'd appreciate that. Now, the final conclusion about COVID-19, and I hope in the future to just stop talking about it, I could state with the utmost confidence, with my chin up and my head held high, that they politicized COVID in 2020 to get Trump out of office. And now it's all biting them in the ass. Imagine that. We live in a world where they politicized a virus that you have a 99.8% chance of surviving for political reasons. They closed down everything. Small businesses are gone because of this. Only the big corporations pretty much survived. That's sad. It's unacceptable. It can never happen again. That's foreshadowing. Final grade, D. I'll be nice, he'll get a D. The other thing that he talked about in his inauguration, lowering the temperature. And I'm not talking about climate change. Neither was he. This is referencing the dangerous culture divide that was built up by the mainstream media lies and propaganda since 2015. Let me take you back to January 20th, 2021, when the big guy was inaugurated. Keep in mind, this was after January 6th, which the left often refers to as the greatest attack on democracy since the Civil War. They say it was worse than Pearl Harbor and 9/11, which is just offensive. In my opinion, thousands of lives were lost on those days. They seriously say this about a bunch of middle-aged Americans, a bunch of dumbasses who walk through the Capitol. Real insurrections involve weapons, like guns. People wouldn't try to take over the government or overthrow the government if that day they were planning on, they were going to challenge the vote and do an investigation into the election because there was fraud. I think we could say that now, right? By the way, there's still no word on the Ray Epps transcripts. I will still check weekly, and if they are released, I will go ahead and do a special episode all about it. Now, I'm old enough to remember that there were 25,000 National Guardsmen and a non-scalable fence outside the Capitol building on that day. And not just that day, but for months after that, they had them sleeping in parking garages. Makes perfect sense to do that on that day, but not when they knew the months leading up to January 6th that there was going to be a rally that day. They denied all that. Clearly, we are dealing with the most popular president in history who got 81 million votes when you need 25,000 National Guardsmen and a non-scalable fence. Since we're kind of in the Wayback Machine right now, talking about January 6th and the promises that Joseph, are you done being a tyrant yet, Biden promised to the American people, let's go ahead and take a look at an article from January 2021 from the New York Times. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's titled, Biden Inaugurated as a 46th President Amid a Cascade of Crises. Crisis? No, it's crises. I just want to highlight some of the things that he said on that day so we can compare it to his rhetoric today. Biden said, "The will of the people has been heard, and the will of the people has been heeded. We've learned again that democracy is precious. My precious. Democracy is fragile. And at this hour, my friends, democracy has prevailed." Ladies and gentlemen, he is basically saying that he defeated those evil, evil white supremacist MAGA people. He shut them down. Democracy won. We're a republic, by the way. He continued, "We must end this uncivil war that pits red against blue, rural, it's a hard word, rural versus urban, conservative versus liberal." Mr. Biden said, "We can do this if we open our souls instead of hardening our hearts, if we show a little tolerance and humility. Comply, comply, comply. And if we're willing to stand in the other person's shoes, as my mom would say, just for a moment." Now, I'll be honest, that wasn't terrible what he said back then, but his actions were much louder than his words. What he was basically saying at this time was that you must bow down to me, for I am the supreme overlord of the USA and will sign every executive order necessary to undo the previous administration's progress. He said, "We can join forces, stop the shouting, and lower the temperature. For without unity, there is no peace. Only bitterness and fury, no progress, only exhausting outrage, no nation, only a state of chaos. This is our historic moment of crisis and challenge, and unity is the path forward." He was set up for success, right? He was, bottom of the ninth, bases loaded, 3 balls, 1 strike, tie ball game. All he had to do was not swing at the next pitch because there was a chance that it was going to be a ball, pretty high chance that he could walk to first base and the winning run would come in. And he'd be the hero. They carry him out, dump the Gatorade on him. But what Biden did was go nuts. And in an easy comparison to what he was saying, the George Orwell 1984 references are a bit overused, but it is a fantastic book. You have to read it. It's so surreal to compare what is said by George Orwell in that book to what's going on now. The big saying in that book was, "War is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength." War is peace. That's the Russian situation and soon to be China war, because they're going to invade Taiwan. They want that back. They want control of those computer chips. They'll control the world. Secondly, freedom is slavery. Get vaccinated or lose your job, aka you will comply. And people say you have a choice, but there was no choice. If you did not comply, you'll be canceled, poor, hungry, and called a racist at the same time. I mean, that's one hell of a trifecta. Ignorance is strength. This is kind of new. It took him 2 years to come up with this, but the Disinformation Board, aka the Ministry of Truth, when they announced that, talking about controlling the narrative, controlling speech, the First Amendment was going to be scratched out off the piece of paper. The Bill of Rights gone. Luckily, that is abandoned for now. They put that project on the back burner because too many people on the left and on the right kind of called them out on it. A couple things to highlight. I mean, he's labeled parents domestic terrorist and sicked the DOJ and FBI on them, all in the name of equity, equality, for having opposing views. This was a conspiracy theory a couple months ago, but it's been turned out to be true. The FBI was investigating these parents who were pissed that they have young girls and boys who identify as trans were allowed to go in the girls' locker room and the girls' bathroom and stuff. Child got raped, and the school tried to cover it up. So they were pissed, as they should have been. There should be outrage. You should be able to voice your opinion, but he sicked the FBI on them, all in the name of equity. He also attempted to enact many things that were considered unconstitutional and struck down by the courts, including recently Title 42. Another thing was that vaccine mandate, where he went on air and said that it was mandated, that there was a law, which there was not. There was no OSHA rule. There was no regulation. It was just something that the President of the United States lied about, and the court struck that down real quick. Let's look at some more unifying things from our resident-in-chief. Yes, I said resident. That was not a typo or a moutho. He was talking about Rick Scott's tax plan on Twitter, which here's what he said. He said Republicans don't want to solve inflation by lowering costs. They want to solve it by raising taxes and lowering your income. Obviously, in regards to inflation, some steps need to be taken. And Rick Scott put forth this tax plan, and he posted that, basically saying that everybody on the right was pushing for this tax plan to go through. I didn't read it, and there's a reason I didn't read it, which I'll get to in a second, but they were going to have a flat tax rate, I believe, for everybody, which makes sense. But even CNN debunked this tweet in a May 22nd, 2022 article. They said it's not only Democrats who have interpreted Scott's plan as a call for a broad tax increase. When McConnell was asked about Scott's plan in March, he said that if Republicans retake the Senate in midterm elections, we will not have as a part of our agenda a bill that raises taxes on half the American people. It's not going to be pushed. It's bad when the parakeet channel of the left fact checks you and says that's false. I mean, that's just a recent one. Some that come to mind also are when he was talking about Jim Crow 2.0, the Georgia voting laws, calling them racist. All they did in Georgia was take away the temporary voting accommodations that were put in place in 2020 when the world was dying for the deadliest pandemic in history, which you have a 99.8% chance to overcome it. So they wanted to pass this Jim Crow law, this voting rights bill, rather, to make those permanent. And he called it Jim Crow 2.0. The Dems, they insist that black people don't know how to vote or get an ID. I mean, that's racist. And to put them on a lower level than you as like a white person or as a different race at all. Plot twist. Georgia just had their preliminaries, and they had record voter turnout. Voter turnout was up 200% compared to 2018 and 2020. Another thing that happened, and this is something we need to keep an eye on. We really need to monitor this and make sure that we don't allow the same thing to happen in 2022, what happened in 2020. We can't do this shit every 2 years. The Monkey Pox Scare. Ladies and gentlemen, they're slowly building this narrative. They want to lock you down again. They want you to lock you in your homes, shut down your businesses so they could steal the midterms because they are not popular people. You are not in danger from monkeypox. Most of the cases involved, and I don't know how else to explain it besides just being straight up and I guess kind of brash, promiscuous gay sex. And I know I have to be clear in 2022. I'm referring to sexual intercourse between two people with penises. Men. Man on man. That's who is getting the monkeypox right now. And shame on them. They really could have come up with a cooler or scarier name than monkeypox. COVID at least sounds like an awesome startup company from Silicon Valley. Monkeypox sounds like a children's book. Just, not a good touch. I would give the grade on Unity for Biden an F. He did absolutely terrible when all he had to do was nothing. So his final GPA for the past 2 years is 0.5. That is a failing grade. All right, so one more thing I want to touch on before we get into the funny Elon Musk tweets is the WaPo Fiasco. It's going to be a good natural lead-in into the latest executive order from the President of the United States. So Washington Post, WaPo, posted on May 23rd at 9:42 p.m. On May 25th, 2020, George Floyd was shot and killed in police custody. Let me read that again. On May 25th, 2020, George Floyd was shot and killed in police custody. His death sparked outrage, wide-scale protests, and calls to changing policing. 2 years later, what has or hasn't changed? If you can't see right now, I'm face palming. Need I not say the obvious on how stupid this tweet is? They left this up for about an hour before taking it down for obvious reasons. I mean, what the hell, WaPo? George Floyd was not shot. How did such lies get past editors? Such common knowledge. That'd be like saying that, the country was founded in 1619 and not 1776. Oh, wait, they do that too. Nonetheless, this is one of the biggest papers in the nation, owned by astronaut Jeff Bezos, posting this truly incredible propaganda. I guess if I were to grade it on a balls scale, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. That's 10 balls, 5 dudes. Which, if you got 5 dudes, 10 balls. Now on to the executive order. God, I hate the Washington Post. I read it sometimes, though, because I like to stay balanced. I like to see what's out there compared to my sources, try to get kind of down the middle response. It's been harder lately to stay in the middle just because of how far left CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, the mainstream media has gone. But now on to the executive order. On May 25th, 2022, Lion Biden tweeted this. I just signed an executive order that delivers the most significant police reform in decades. It will increase accountability, ban chokeholds, restrict no-knock entries, and more for federal law enforcement officers. And it incentivizes state and local officers to do the same. So incentivizes. So that means that they'll probably get money if they adapt kind of the same processes as the federal law enforcement agents. The timing of this is very poor, to say the least. May 25th is the anniversary of George Floyd overdosing while resisting arrest, but it's the day after that deadly shooting, and they're talking about taking away ways for police to enforce the law, making it harder for them to enforce the law, versus funding them and making it easier. Very, very strange. I hope that we can get back to supporting the blue. They were saying that Blue Lives Matter is racist. No, supporting your law enforcement is a respectful thing to do. Telling them thank you for protecting our community, just being nice to them in public is the way to go. They have a hard enough job. We have a police shortage in America because of May 25th, 2020, when George Floyd overdosed and died for resisting arrest. And then Derek Chauvin got sentenced for second-degree murder. For murder. He got sentenced on live TV for murder. It was a shit show. It was a circus. A clown fiesta. I don't know what other way to explain it, but cops were like, no, why? I'm done. They took early retirement. People decided, no, I'm not going to become a cop. I'll be an accountant. Less accountability there. No pun intended. But yeah, on to some good Elon Musk content. All right, I don't know what specific order these are in, but Elon is the man. He is Iron Man. He is today's Tony Stark. So Cernovich on Twitter posted an article. It says Bill Gates poured millions into dark money fund attacking Elon Musk. Elon Musk replied, "What a dick move." This is the richest man in the world. Chad Hurley, I don't know who this person is. I think he's friends with Elon because they interact a lot. He said, "Hey, Elon, stop horsing around and close this Twitter deal. We all want a happy ending." So he was referring to the story that came out about Elon Musk getting a massage and then trying to get a hand job, a happy ending. So that's why he tweeted that. Elon Musk responded, "Hi, Chad. Long time no see. Fine. If you touch my wiener, you could have a horse." He posts memes too. The great Elon Musk. He posted this picture and it says, "Ladies, mansplaining is short for man explaining." And then he is now awake. He is one of us. He's like me. He's like my listeners here. He said, "If I die under mysterious circumstances, it's been nice knowing ya." He did that because he was calling out the Sussman trial going on right now that's bringing to light Hillary Clinton making up lies about the Trump campaign about Donald Trump, and they're all going to get prosecuted. It's not always about business with Elon Musk. Sometimes it's about pleasure. He tweeted, "Chocolate milk is insanely good. Just had some," on May 9th, 2022, and it got 1.1 million likes. So if that's something we could be bipartisan about, chocolate milk is pretty good. I mean, I'm kind of lactose, so I can't indulge in the chocolate milk. But if I was at a table and Elon Musk offered me chocolate milk, I would take it. Chocolate milk is insanely good. Just had some. Elon Musk, May 9th, 2022. And then I don't know if you've ever seen that one meme with the small brain, the medium-sized brain, then the big glowing brain. You probably have. You can't answer me anyways in this audio format, but the first small brain, publishing factual, accurate news. Medium brain, publishing articles that use clickbait and out-of-context quotes. Big brain, publishing articles that are inaccurate, slanderous, and include at least one accusation of being a Nazi. This is a direct response to somebody attacking him. And then last but not least, as everybody knows, he's attempting to buy Twitter. He was calling out the Twitter deal about bots and whatnot. He said, "Twitter deal temporary on hold, pending details supporting calculation that spam fake accounts do indeed represent less than 5% of users." He replied to his own tweet, "To find out, my team will do a random sample of 100 followers of @Twitter. I invite others to repeat the same process and see what they discover." This is apparently how Twitter determines how many bots there are on a platform. They go to a random account and check 100 followers to see if they're real. And they got pissed because apparently this violated his NDA, his non-disclosure agreement with them, to kind of bring out the ways that they do things. And then he finally replied, 1 hour later, "The bots are angry at being counted." And then last but not least, this might be a nerdy meme to know, but there's two astronauts in space, and the one has a gun at the other one's back. And the first astronaut, who doesn't have the gun, says, "Wait, it's all bots?" That's Elon. And the Twitter board says, "With the gun, always has been." All right, ladies and gentlemen, it feels good to be back. So thank you so much for checking out today's show. If you enjoyed it, tell a friend. In fact, I think you and your hypothetical friend should give it a follow. New episodes are going to be posted every Thursday at 8 a.m. Eastern. You could also hit me up on Twitter or Truth Social at Denny London. We can continue the conversation there. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. God bless, and cue the music.